Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 knockdown rule on Triller is back in effect. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Manhattan Mario Lopez. Welcome back.
Thank you. Very appropriate. More on that later. Nice shirt, by the way. I think both of us representing. More on that later.
I'm thirsty.
Shout out to Smoking Tim Frazier, Buffalo Knuckles, and
Tino on the edits. We have so much to talk about. Let's work our way back. This was Saturday, May 14th at the War Grounds in Carson, California on Showtime. Your new undisputed junior middleweight champion of the world, Jermell Charlo, stops the hard-charging Brian Castaño in 10 rounds. He is now one of the few undisputed champions in the sport. In the co-feature, welterweight sensation Jaron Boots Ennis makes quick work of Custio Clayton in 2 rounds.
Listen, I was wrong. So was
I.
Yeah, no, we were both wrong. Props to Charlo. I honestly thought, based on the last fight, which, by the way, I feel Castaño still won, that Castaño had enough momentum and maybe had figured him out and was going to go even with more confidence. And it was not that it was going to be easy, but that he would do enough to come away with the victory. And I was incorrect. Props to Charlo. He made great adjustments. Seemed to have really executed his game plan well, was not intimidated, and when he had him hurt, took him out, and it was a very impressive victory. I think he's obviously the man in the division, and dare I say, the Charlo to be reckoned with of the brothers. Both those guys, which I like, respect out of Houston. Nicest teeth in boxing.
Yes.
I've said that for a while. And that was a very, very impressive victory. And I think Castaño, his style, it lends itself to, if applied correct or with smart pressure and effectively, you could really cause some trouble for some people. But there are instances where you can leave yourself a little bit open and get caught, like he did with the uppercut there. I don't know if it's worthy of a rematch. I'll tell you what fight I would like to see, because some people are saying, well, it's 1-on-1, really. I would like to see Charlo with my boy Fundura. I think that's a fun fight there. But overall, respect and a tip of the hat to Charlo.
Charlo showed more dimensions. That's the bottom line. Castaño is Castaño. Square pegs don't die round.
Sometimes that's hard, though, to acclimate or to adjust to.
But his style, Castaño's, is always going to be what it is. And one instance where I thought Charlo was better, that even when he had his back on the ropes, instead of letting Castaño swarm him, this time he hit him with shots right down the middle from the mid-range, and he caught him. And even though Castaño was landing his share of leather, punch for punch, Charlo was the stronger puncher, though. You could see the erosion.
He looked crisper in his punches, but to go back a little bit, in the whole he is who he is, and that's, you know what you're getting. Well, you also know what you were getting with Maidana, and he seemed to be very effective. Not that I'm comparing him the two, but in the sense
Maidana hits harder, though.
Well, that's
the thing.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. If you're going to have the same style, then you better have some bricks in your hands, because then it makes the other fighter less or a little more reluctant, and you're given a little more leeway.
And what Charlo really showed on this night, I thought, was character. After 6 rounds, it kind of looked like what took place last year in San Antonio. And after winning the first couple rounds, Castaño strung together 3, 4, 5, and 6, and you're thinking, ooh, momentum's going to Argentina. But he bit down and he said, you know what? I'm the better athlete. Yep. I'm the superior technician, and I'm going to come right down the middle. And he began to wear him out. Look, Castaño's a tough guy, but the way he reacted to punches was very evident. He was more affected by what was landing on him than vice versa. Then you take apart all this other stuff, the reflexes, the quickness, the trigger pull. That started to separate Charlo from Castaño. After 9 rounds, your scorecards read 89-82, 87-84, and 88-83, all in favor of Charlo. Now, Mario, we are sky high on this young man. He joined us during the last edition of the 3 knockdown rule on Triller. Boots Ennis, I get it. It's Custio Clayton, but how you win is important. Those are style points.
Listen, not only style points, he seems to really be it's a showcase now every time he fights, And I think he's got all the intangibles with his mindset, the maturity, his father, the camp around him. I think the kid, we always said he was like a blue chip prospect. I think he's one to be reckoned with in that division. And I'm curious to see what his next step is. What have you heard as far as...
This fight was an IBF eliminator, so he's clearly the number one. But if you're Errol Spence, now it becomes risk versus reward.
Right.
Do I take on this Philly guy for a little bit of money, or do I finally say, okay, Crawford, all the belts, a lot more money? At this point, Crawford becomes the much more palatable guy. He may have not been that before, but the presence of Boots Ennis, who nobody wants to face unless they have to, he may actually be the impetus for Crawford Spence happening to a certain degree.
Well, that's what I was just about to ask. So Spence is in a position now where if he doesn't take the Crawford fight, he is forced, theoretically, to fight Boots. And for some reason, if he doesn't take the Boots fight, then he'll be stripped, correct?
Theoretically, if you're a mandatory defense is called and you don't take it, yes, you lose the title. Bottom line.
You lose the title. Well, then... Boots over here saving super fights for us.
That's what he does.
And that's what he does. And you know what? He's a young guy. I don't have a problem with him sort of kind of waiting his turn and being in line. I think it bodes well for him. Those fighters are getting a little bit older, bursting at the seams. He'll obviously be in line for the winner should those other two fight, which looks like
Mario,
it will happen.
Can we be realistic? The winner's moving up, like the Jeffersons. They are giving Boots no shot. None.
You're right.
None.
The winner or in line for the title regardless.
Yes. The thing with Boots is he's 29-0, 27 knockouts. You know he's only 24.
Wow.
He's really not theoretically even into his physical prime. And I want to make this point for people that say, we don't need sanctioning bodies. This. Yeah, we do. Because with Boots Ennis, unless he's a mandatory challenger and people are forced to fight him, nobody in terms of the opposite promoter, managers, or even other fighters, out of the goodness of their heart, are going to say, well, he deserves it, and I'm going to fight him because I want to. No, that's why you need sanctioning bodies, because guys like Boots Ennis, they would be perennially ducked, dodged, and avoided.
Agreed. Saw some posts over the weekend with Virgil Ortiz, who we were talking about. Looks like he's back in the gym, in shape. Where does he fall in line now? As far as with the rankings.
Remember this, he's number one in the WBO. But that's another guy that, again, Virgil Ortiz does not mean as much financially to Terrence Crawford as an Errol Spence. So it goes both ways here.
Well, that's what I was assuming. So in a perfect world, Spence and Crawford finally get it on. Those guys move up. And then we see, hopefully, down the road, the new hot fight to make at that is the Virgil Ortiz-Boots Ennis fight.
We can only hope. Also, on this night, Saturday, May 14th, Toyota Arena in Ontario, California.
Busy night.
On the zone, light heavyweight in action in what was the first of two WBA light heavyweight eliminators on consecutive weeks. Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez beats up on Dominic Bozal in 4, and lightweight sensation William Zepeda with a 10-round victory over Rene Alvarado. Mario, I got to give Ramirez credit. In the past, this would have been a 12-round decision. Now he's stopping, guys.
Listen, you know I love me some Zurdo, and I don't want to sound biased, but maybe I am. I train over at Brick House, too. He's obviously from Sinaloa, but he's a hell of a nice guy. He's just a really, really nice guy. And not to mention, a good fighter, great fighter. He looked, I thought, really sharp. Julian Chua has done an excellent job with him to get him to be more dimensional, busier, placing his punches better, working the body. You said light heavyweight. My guy looked like a heavyweight in there. He was looking big.
By fight night, he probably is.
He was about 204. But guess what? He makes 75 easy, he told me. I couldn't believe he once squeezed down to 68. So he's making 75 easy. He looked really impressive in that outing. And, you know, I was talking to Julian, as a matter of fact, today, and maybe he said he was about 60% of that camp, got a little sick going into it, came in a little heavy, so it was more of a little bit of a fat camp, but he obviously had gotten it together. So, you know, they're thinking, and then he told me that Aram said he's got no interest in Bivol fighting for the winner of Joe Smith and Beterbiev. So if that's the case, because I guess he doesn't want to work in main event, if that's the case, Bivol Zurdo was a great little fight.
I've said that, and again, that's the WBA eliminator. WBA title at 175 is held by Dmitry Bivol. I talked to Julian the week of the fight. They had a media day at Brickhouse, and I asked him, is Zurdo one of those guys you have to teach how to fight, or is it about the mindset and the mentality? And he said it, you're right. When I got Zurdo, I already know it's a sharpened sword. Now I got to get him to stab people and chop heads off. It's about the mentality. When you get a new trainer or you get a new fighter as a trainer, there are certain guys you have to make a million technical and fundamental adjustments.
Right.
Other guys, it's upstairs, and you have to get them to know not all wins are created equal. Look, this guy's 43-0, but in my view, it's the last 3 fights where, again, he faced faded guys, older veterans, but he stopped them.
Yep.
He put an exclamation point instead of the period. It matters. Right now, if Bivol does not get Canelo Alvarez, and more on that later because it doesn't look like it's headed that way, you put that fight in L.A., Zurdo against Bivol, I think that's a significant promotion.
So do I.
Yeah.
Real quick to talk about Julian, who I think has done a great job there. He also had a fighter on that card in Scrappy.
Scrappy. Oh, what a knockout.
That could be the knockout of the year. That could be the knockout of the year right there. So he's getting his guys to be busy. They're stopping people. He's doing a good job, man.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Also, well, this was truly the busiest night in Southern California
really was.
boxing. On this night at the Kia, still Great Western Forum, Inglewood, California.
Fun
on
fights,
Triller,
too.
It was Triller versus 5. I was on the scene. Cruiserweight in action. Sergey Kovalev with a clear-cut 10-round decision over Tervel Pulev. Your scores, 98-92 twice, 97-93. Also, heavyweight Kubrat Pulev with a 10-round decision over Jerry Forrest. And the Vargas dynasty, Fernando Jr., Amado, and Emiliano, all wrap up wins. And I got to see Onyx, Slam, and Cypress Hill. Very fun, long night.
Tell me about the event.
The event was interesting. The concert, I never...
You never want to say interesting.
No, it's interesting in a good way. I have one
It's like
critique.
when you say, hey, so you want to meet this chick? Dude, I want to hook you up. How was she? She's interesting.
Yeah, or honey, does this dress make me look fat? Yeah, it's one of those. I get it, but I'd have one critique. I actually enjoyed Onyx and Cypress Hill. I don't know if I need 90 minutes. I would shorten that up to an hour.
Was it 90 minutes?
Yeah, they gave me both.
No.
Yes, let's go an hour, 45 minutes, but it was good. Also, the fights themselves, the way they stage it, it looks big. They actually got a decent crowd.
Nice.
Considering
so the production's
there
nice.
were 2 other fight cards happening within a 50-mile radius.
Yeah,
Also,
good.
the event was so long because they had an issue with Jerry Forrest's gloves. They didn't fit.
So that was the delay.
That
then.
was another delay that they had.
Had that not happened, would it still have been a long delay?
Yeah, I personally think most shows nowadays should have a limit. As soon as the last bell rings for one fight, if I'm the commission, I tell guys, I don't care what production you have. I don't care what feature you've produced. That next fight better get in there in 10 minutes. Nobody wants to buy a ticket to a 7-hour event. They don't.
Yeah, it's not Lollapalooza. How long was the wait in between?
Sometimes 20 to 30 minutes. And then the concert portion was okay because you got to run around, hang outside.
Well,
get
if
a
you
few
had the
drinks.
concert portion between maybe in those 20, 30 minutes, that'd be different.
It would be, but it wasn't really that way. The fights themselves, I generally enjoyed it. Sergey Kovalev as a cruiserweight, he used to be a powerhouse. Now he's a picker and a prober.
Fencer.
Yes, he's going to jab his way to victory.
Okay.
He still has that traditional 1-2-1. He never actually hooks off the right hand. It's always the jab, right hand, and a power jab.
Yeah.
And he gets great leverage on it, but you can tell when he used to hit through guys at 75. I've seen him knock guys out and down with the jab at light heavyweight.
Yeah.
I've seen him land grazing right hands to the body at light heavyweight, and guys would crumble. Boy, these 200-pounders are big and strong. But Kovalev, I thought, looked pretty good technically.
Nice.
And the important thing is his legs are there.
Vargas boys?
Emiliano can be a star.
Yeah.
I've been told for 2.5, 3 years from people that have seen him in the gym, seen him spar. Remember, he's the one with the longest amateur career.
Yeah.
The other boys picked it up a little bit late, so the learning curve is different. Emiliano has an electricity to him. He's got a certain type of speed that his dad never had. An explosion and a quickness.
Quick twitch.
Yes.
He's got it all. He's really well schooled. Great amateur background. Good looking kid.
Yes.
He's got very marketable. He's got it. He could be a star.
That charisma is off the charts.
Right.
He's a great looking kid.
He could
Very
be
well mannered too.
And I don't mean this, but he could be the next Ryan Garcia in the sense that, as far as in the social media era, to build. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
In that sense, and I think, and his dad's done such a great job keeping him focused and keeping them disciplined. High ceiling for that kid.
Absolutely. Also, a couple of news and notes from last week before we get back to some of the stuff that happened this past weekend. ESPN and Top Rank have announced, this is early Tuesday morning boxing, Mario. June 7th, Saitama, Japan, the rematch between Nino Inoue and Nonito Donaire will take place that night. Set your alarm clocks. Also, it looks to me there's been no opponent set yet. Speaking of King Ride, July 16th, I'm hearing this will either be at the Crypto Still Staples Center Arena in L.A. or Las Vegas. Ryan Garcia will be taking on Tom Bob Anderson, TBA, and I believe Alexis Rocha will. That's an old one. I've used that one. Alexis Rocha will be on the card.
It was fresh again.
Mario.
What happened with Isaac? Oh God, they're just not trying to. Look, when I spoke with Oscar and then he's all, "Hey man, we did all we could. This is on Heyman." That's what I had heard. You believe that?
I don't want to put it all on Heyman. Here's the reality: Golden Boy and PBC, they don't break bread. I mean, honestly, this right now is worse than the Hatfields and McCoys.
That's a shame.
And even the WBC just said, we're not even doing a purse bid.
Yeah.
Neither of you want to come to the table. Oscar told me at Brick House a week and a half ago, look, I'm hopeful, but I'm realistic. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't want to cast blame on anyone because, look, at the end of the day, you look at what's going on with Jaime Munguia. Well, Golden Boy didn't want to send him over to Showtime without the zone. So these politics exist for everybody in a lot of different situations. Moving on here, this past weekend, busy night of boxing. Saturday night from the Resorts World in Las Vegas on ESPN. The WBO interim middleweight titleist, it is now held by, we're just going to call him Janabek, with a stoppage in 2 rounds over Danny Dignam. And unfortunately, Jermaine Ortiz ends the career of Jamel Herring. Mario, Saturday night, this is the truth. And this shows you actually do watch the fights. People ask me. 30 seconds after Janabek scored his knockout, you called me and you said, Kim, this guy's a problem.
He's a problem, man. He's a problem. I like that dude because he looks kind of like a vato, but he's like
he kind of does.
Korean Russian.
He kind of does.
But he looks. No, listen, and Igas, I can't believe we didn't talk about him the last time he was here. He's got himself a nice little stable. If you're a middleweight, you don't want any part of this guy right now. He is a well-schooled, fundamentally sound, heavy-handed southpaw that is not afraid to mix it up. That was a dominant performance, but what was more impressive was that power and the way he was setting him up. I could see why Andrade didn't want to get in there, or Munguia doesn't want to get in there. That's talk about risk versus reward. He's one of those guys that he's probably going to have to be the number one contender, and I don't think that's too far down the line.
Well, keep this in mind. This is for the WBO interim title. Andre can still make the decision to come back down to 60 based on what that fight might pay. And like you said, the risks that it actually provides. Andre may just go back up to 68 and say, okay, let's do Zach Parker. Let's try to win that title.
Yeah, because that was a very impressive performance, and I was like, oh, we got a player in this.
Buddy McGirt has done an excellent job of, I believe, making him more fluid, Americanizing him just a little bit. And keep this in mind, when Golovkin came to the States against the Polish fighter, Gregor Proska, in 2012.
I remember that.
He was already 32. Right now, Janabek's only 29.
Wow.
So there's room to grow. Now, keep this in mind.
I also, since you mentioned Triple G, I like his post-interview where in the culture, out of respect, they don't challenge older fighters, which I thought was very, very cool. Because Triple G removed who are the rest of the champions.
Well, it's Jermall. Charlo is up there. Andre is still technically a WBO belt holder.
Yeah.
Munguia's number 1 up there.
So look, I don't think it's far-fetched that he could be very competitive with all those guys.
Here's what I think Top Rank has to do, and I've asked them. With the guy that's only 12-0, 8 fights, now he's become a guy. He made a splash.
Right.
I would do everything in my power if I'm Aegis Klimas and Top Rank. Not just one more fight this year. Get him out there as much as possible. There has to be a familiarity. Before a fighter can become a brand, he has to fight a lot. And he's still 8 fights from being 20-0.
No, of course.
So we haven't seen him a lot.
We haven't. Well, that was the same with Lomachenko, too. But when you have such a deep amateur background, then you can accelerate these guys. And I think he proved that he's ready.
Well, that's one thing about Aegis Klimas guys. They never go into the right-hand lane of the freeway. They're all the way on the fast lane on the left side. He when he signs these guys from Russia or Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, his basic premise is this. I'm going to be very fast with you because one of his famous sayings is, I asked him one time about rushing Lomachenko in 2-3 fights to a title. This one I barely knew him, and he scared the hell out of me. He goes, we have a saying in our country. If you can't fight today, you can't fight tomorrow. What are we waiting for? That's his theory. And Mario, unfortunately, Jermell Herring, the last few rounds against Jermaine Ortiz, you could tell he was trying to find a gear. He was trying to find something deep within himself. Just wasn't there. Wasn't there.
Look, I love me some Jermell Herring. The guy's a class act. He's a gentleman. We've had him in here. Bright guy. Represented our country.
Yes.
And so I think there's no shame in what I thought was a nice career.
Yes.
And I think he has a future in the sport.
Yes.
In some capacity, whether that's training, whether that's as a broadcaster, whether he's just one of those guys that's a great ambassador. So I hope he remains in the sport. Even Shakur Stevenson's been giving him a lot of support and love, which I like to see. Former opponent. So I hope he stays in the game.
Yes, look, he's doing some broadcasting. He's a bright, charismatic, personable individual. Him and Jerry Cazares, good friend of ours, they have started a management company. So they represent fighters. So this is a message to young boxers.
Yeah.
This does not last forever. Nothing is ever promised, so always look ahead to the next stage of your life, even as you're boxing. Because if you start right when you're retired, it's too late. It's too late.
An athlete's window is short.
Yes.
A fighter's window is even shorter.
Yes.
So, yes, you got to start thinking about that as soon as you get into the game.
Also, this past weekend from the Gila River Arena in Glendale, Arizona, your new WBC interim super middleweight title is now held by David Benavidez, TKO in 3 over the overmatched David Lemieux. He is now 26-0, 23 knockouts, as Mike Tyson called him, Mario. He's a Mexican monster.
That's a great
Oh, you like that one?
right
Okay,
there.
good.
I do like that one. Go right on, Mike. I was hoping, because I've always liked me some David Lemieux, kind of barrel-chested, and he wings those
What did I
big
tell you
hooks.
about that fight?
Hold on a second,
you.
but I was hoping he had a couple wicked left hooks left in him just to make it interesting, just to make it kind of exciting. Bro, Benavidez is bad, dude. He's bad. The fact that he squeezes himself down to 68, because he's a big-ass dude, and his hand speed, there's a lot of guys that are fast, but they look like they're trying hard. Does that make sense? Look like it's being forced.
His flows.
That's what I'm saying. It looks like it's being forced. He is so fluid and so smooth, and it's effortless with that hand speed. And being such a big guy with that kind of hand speed, that is really rare. I can't think of another one that in a long time that has been like a big guy like that with that sort of hand speed, being so fluid with it. He places his punches well. He's a mean dude in there, and he knows how to take you out. Outside of Canelo, best 68-pounder?
Yes, and because of the activity, and I thought in this fight, he actually pulled back from just the volume punching to be a little bit more forceful with velocity.
Right.
And he was still putting together. Look, I give Lemieux credit. I thought the first 90 seconds, it's like, oh, okay. And you could see him trying to do stuff.
Right.
He could not dent the armor. Again, if you had to weigh fighters in at 9 o'clock in the morning, like the olden days, David Benavidez would be at least a light heavyweight, if not a cruiser. But now that you're weighing guys in 30 hours plus, they have a chance to rehydrate, and they literally grow right in front of you. Okay? The first time that Benavidez really landed a solid shot on Lemieux was like, he was like Dorothy. Toto, we ain't at middleweight or Kansas anymore. He had a look on his face like, oh, geez. And I felt bad for him. And you know what? Tip of the cap to the corner. They were not more courageous than the fighter. Mark Ramsey did a hell of a job because that was going to get ugly.
Boy, they could have stopped it in the first.
Yes.
You know,
Harvey Dock was this close.
I don't think anybody would have argued too much, but yeah, it was a very impressive performance. So you would favor him over Caleb Plant?
Yes, too hard-hitting, too active. Jermall Charlo is a middleweight. I mean, if you're Jermall Charlo, do you want to make your first foray at 68 against that guy? I tell you the toughest matchup is with the most risk, and it's not Canelo because that's a lot of reward. David Morrell. Keep this in mind. David Morrell has said, I want that guy, and I'm with the PBC. Now, me and you, we've been high on Morrell, but he's only 6-0, but he's a southpaw, and he's strong. What's the one thing that Benavidez probably doesn't like with this flat-footed style? A little bit of movement, the ability to hit on the fly.
Right.
I'm actually stunned that his management, led by Samson Lukowicz, is even mentioning Morrell. I'll be honest. If I'm managing David Benavidez, Morrell is a non-factor. I don't even speak his name.
He wouldn't be my first choice, but going back to what you said with his flat-footed style, I don't think he needs to be so fleet of foot with those fast hands. And he does a good job cutting the ring off, and his length causes such problems. I think he just sort of swamps you and then ends up overwhelming you with his combinations. In his defense, because he stands so tall, he's bad at super
But
middleweight.
are we being prisoner of the moment when people are literally saying he's the best super middleweight, even with Canelo? Because that's a little unfair.
It's different because his style, ironically, plays into sort of Canelo's strengths too. Still would like to see it. Great fight. Interesting fight right there.
Because one thing, again, he's flat-footed. Canelo has had issues with movement and guys who can hit on the fly. That's not necessarily Benavidez. And also, look, 75. He's not a light heavyweight. He probably fits right into the wheelhouse at 68. Now, moving on. This Saturday night, May 28th, from the Barclays Center, it's Showtime pay-per-view. The WBA regular lightweight title is on the line. Gervonta Tank Davis takes on Rollies Romero. Mario, are you okay? I know you like Rolly.
You know I like Rolly because
he has no shot. He has no shot.
I like
None.
dudes that are crazy.
Okay, he has that going for him.
I like dudes that are crazy because they're characters. I think the sport needs characters, and I just like people like that in real life. They make me laugh, and I'm always down with crazy dudes. The thing about Rolly, here's the thing. Now hold on. Let me tell you the things I like about him. Aside from him being crazy, my guy can punch. He's heavy-handed, and he's also awkward and unorthodox to his benefit because it's difficult to time. And he's got a lot of confidence and he's got a big set of balls. He'll go in there and let those hands go. So you got a guy that's heavy-handed, unorthodox, and unafraid to go in there. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I'm saying pay attention because it could get interesting.
Okay.
Do you disagree?
Let me give the counterpoint to this.
No, I'm just saying. You think he's going to go out in there and get washed. All I'm saying is, and listen, obviously Tank, much more skilled, more talented fighter. I get it. But he's such a character, and because of those intangibles, I think all I'm saying is I think you can make it interesting.
I'm going to call you
my guy's trash talking though, and he's
yeah, not exactly Gary Payton.
It's
Look,
so funny.
I'm going to call you Salvation Army.
Do you not agree with the points I just made?
Let me just give you my points. I'm going to call you Salvation Army because you're awfully charitable when you call this technique unorthodox. When I'm watching him shadowbox, I'm thinking, what is this, rerun Stubbs? Popping and locking?
Right.
It's awful. Here's the reality.
You say awful, I say unorthodox.
Here's the reality. Tank Davis, for all the derision he gets, I'm one of the people, I actually think he's really talented.
Yeah, I just said he's talented.
And he's very close to being one of the top 10 to 15 fighters in the world, pound for pound. I think that much of him, despite his resume being very slim.
I like Tank. I'm a fan of Tank.
Rollies Romero may not be one of the top 100. There's an old saying that there's levels to this game.
Yes. I agree.
They're levels apart, Mario.
I agree with you. No one said he's on the same level. All I'm saying is because, look, if he didn't have that pop, then I say he's getting out of there like in a couple rounds. But because of that pump, I think Tank will respect him enough to give it. I don't think he's just going to walk right in and start throwing. I think it could be interesting for a round or two. But those round or two will be entertaining. That's all I'm saying.
That's the biggest backhanded compliment I've ever heard. Think about this.
Is that not? No, because the other guys.
This fight can be competitive for a round.
Hey, wouldn't you rather have a round? Wouldn't you rather have a fun round or two than a boring 10-round, 12-round fight?
Right, but call Leonard Ellerby. That's really going to sell a fight. This could be competitive for 3 minutes.
It's like your sex life, Kim. For one round, it could be great, but then you can't put in work for 10 rounds.
Not many people can at our age, but here's the issue. As soon as Tank
Speak for yourself.
Strikes him with the hard left, and he's one of the best punchers in the sport.
Yes.
All of that bluster,
I don't know, how is Raleigh's chin?
Well, we're going to find out.
We're going to find out.
In my view, again, Salvation Army
this
Lopez.
is just entertainment. For entertainment purposes, I just think it's a fun fight. You know what I mean? I just think it's a fun fight.
Yeah, if this fight actually goes more than 6 rounds, I am going to call the authorities and the commission.
I don't think it will. That's the irony. But I think it'll be fun for the couple rounds.
Oh, my God.
Am I making sense?
I would actually petition to have that listed as a loss for Tank Davis if this goes beyond 5 rounds. Also on this undercard, Erislandy Lara takes on Spike.
I'm gonna be in town this
O'Sullivan.
weekend. We got to watch him.
Okay, I'll be around. Erislandy Lara takes on Spike O'Sullivan. Jesus Ramos is also on the card.
It's a throwback fight right there.
Eduardo Ramirez against Louis. Throwback or throwaway? Anyway, we come back.
Cold as ice.
Cold as ice. We come back. We wrap it up with Ask Mario and Final Flurries, the 3 knockdown rule on Triller. And we're back on the 3 knockdown rule on Triller. We go to the Ask Mario portion of this program. We start out with Seabass 123s. Hey fellas, I miss HBO boxing. Do you think there's any chance it could ever come back given how big HBO Max has become?
You know what? I would love it, and I miss it so much too. There was such a class and high level of that production. I spoke with Jim Lampley not too long ago, who is now a
professor at UNC.
Correct, in North Carolina. He's living in North Carolina, and I was reaching out to him about a doc that we're doing.
Yeah.
And because it involves HBO, he refuses to be a part of it because he felt he was done dirty. I was like, oh, and it was representing a certain era, and I'm like, Jim, you are so missed. People, we can't put it aside. And he was wrestling with it, and his pride didn't allow him, but damn it, I really wanted him for this particular doc. But yeah, there's a lot of bridges that were burned according to the players that were involved with HBO.
If you look at HBO's programming, it's gone a certain direction, like HBO The Shop, some of their political leanings. I don't think they want to be involved in boxing. I've asked around. No indication has been given to me that home box office will ever go back into live sports or boxing. Take that for what you will.
Wah, wah.
Here's a question from Ignacio Ortiz. After his performance this weekend, do you have Joshua Buatsi fight a couple more times or go straight into a Bivol fight? And how much will Bill Haney not being in Devin's corner affect him psychologically? Now, Mario, Joshua Buatsi fought another WBA eliminator, beating Craig the Spider Richards. Good fight. I did not see a guy that is good enough or evasive enough from the outside to beat Bivol. But Bivol now has 2 options. You could fight Zurdo Ramirez on the West Coast in Southern California, or you could fight Buatsi in UK. That'd be a real event. So those are good fights. Now, Bill Haney had some past legal issues that is keeping him from having his visa approved for Australia. What type of effect do you think that'll have on Devin Haney?
Listen, it's not ideal. I think it will have some type of effect.
Yeah, it's not great. We don't know how bad it is. We
don't know how bad, but it's not what you want. It's not great. He's already conceding home turf, the momentum, the crowd, all that sort of stuff. But once the bell rings,
fighters fight.
And he is who he is, and he's a talented kid. So that I expect a really good fight.
And throughout Devin's career, he's been with different Mayweathers. He's been with Mickey Bay.
Right.
So he's used to having different faces. It's not if this was a Tommy Hearns, young Tommy Hearns, Emmanuel Stewart situation, and you rip him away before his first or a title fight, that's big. But I think Devin's used to having revolving games. I think Yoel Judah, the father of Zab, he will be accompanying him to Australia when they fight on June 4th. Here's one from our old friend Clay Stevenson at Glitter Road. Hey, Mario, I see that Golden Boy Promotions finally got the zone extension done last week. That being said, do you know if Oscar is looking for a second platform for Golden Boy? A supplemental outlet can only help.
Yes is the answer. You know, for a hot minute, they had something going on with Facebook. Right, and I'm a big fan of the whole developmental series, and I think there's other outlets that are in talks right now. So that's encouraging. We know they can work with Top Rank. We talked earlier how ideally if they could build some sort of bridge with PBC, it'd be better for everyone. But yeah, congrats to those guys for re-inking that deal.
And they do have a developmental series on Thursday nights with the Zone at Fantasy Springs.
Those have been pretty good.
Pretty good fights. I mean, look, Mercito Hesta put on a hell of a fight against Joseph Diaz. I'd like to see Mercito maybe get that shot with Ryan Garcia.
I agree.
If those other guys don't get it.
Speaking of developmental series, you weren't there, but I went with Dana White. Shout out to Tom Loeffler. That was a nice card.
360 Promotions, Quiet Cannon, Montebello.
Quiet Cannon, Montebello. There was a great crowd. Nice card, evenly matched fighters, knockouts. It was fun.
Callum Walsh looks like he can fight a little bit.
He can fight.
Fine Irish lad.
Dana likes that guy. And on UFC Fight Pass, they're starting to highlight a lot of boxing. Remember, he was a boxing guy before he got into MMA, so that was kind of cool to see. So
We'll have to go out there next time. I'll go out there next time.
Yeah, that's your hood right there.
About 2 minutes from my office. Here's one from Sherm. Not Big Sherm, but I got a carton milk this morning, and Emmanuel Navarrette's picture was on it. Does anyone know when he'll be back in the ring? Okay.
Yeah.
El Vaquero had some situations with Zanfer Promotion, so he was sidelined. I am being told that he's going to return in August on a Top Rank / ESPN show, and guess what? There's a very good chance, it's in pencil, not ink, he could be staying classy in San Diego. Your old haunts, the old 619.
Oh, okay.
So
I wonder training with who?
No, I think the training situation is what it is.
Oh, right.
But I think he's got to work out a situation with Zanfer before he moves on.
Understood.
Mario, what was New York City like? I have a question. I'm going to be going out there, book my flight for the Beterbiev Smith fight on the weekend of June 18th.
Nice.
Now, are all the mask mandates and the vaccine cards, is that over with for now?
When I was there, it was back to normal, bro. Restaurants were bustling. The streets were full. Best time of year to go. The weather was awesome. It was a very busy week for me.
Yeah.
Very busy. Dude, and the thing about New York, so many great places to eat. I mean, every little shop you go to or a restaurant you go to I had a marathon meal every night, drinking every night, eating. I felt disgusting at the end of the week.
Did you pay Jimmy's Corner a visit? They miss you over there.
I did it because I was literally from the moment I got, and then I had to be up at like 6 in the morning every day, which was really 3 in the morning. Right, so that was rough. But throw in those marathon dinners, which were dinner meetings, and then you're drinking at all of them. It was rough. So I'm glad to be back. But New York's, I love it, and I love New Yorkers. Okay. Great place to visit, though. But I'm a Southern Cali boy. I like the weather and I like having a yard.
I haven't been there since the Crawford Mean Machine Kavaliauskas fight, and I believe that was December of 2019. And I decided, look, once a year, just for business purposes, you have to go to fights. Part of the job. Young journalists or young writers, I'm going to tell you this: you have to go to fights, not just for the fights, but you have to be able to see people in person.
Sure.
Make contacts, cultivate sources, and it's worth it. The last couple fights hasn't been about the fights. That's the advice I would give to guys getting into this business. You have to be there. Andy Warhol once said 85% of life is just showing up. Exactly also, right. You went to the San Diego Zoo this weekend. Was it work or fun for you?
It was kind of, I guess, supposed to be work. They just took some pics and what is that, sponsorship for the radio show or... Yeah, and so that's the old stomping grounds down there. So my mom and dad came with my family, and it was again perfect weather. It was like overcast because when it's hot, the animals all kind of hide in the shade right there. But it's springtime, so the animals are all getting busy, getting nasty there. And apparently, I just missed the gorillas. I was like so late to seeing all these animals get broke off. I was pissed, but then I would have explained it to the kids. It would have been maybe bad, but it's fun, man, especially with the kids. They get asking all these questions. They're in that space, right? Oh, they get to do this and. And the food was good. I couldn't believe it. We had like a little. They took us to a little restaurant there. That was really good. You could drink at the zoo too.
Really?
Had a couple margaritas. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. Kids had a lot of fun, especially for the kids.
I remember growing up in Valencia, California. I don't know if they played this.
Oh wait, real quick, not to interrupt you. This is a fun fact. So they got like 6 elephants right there. Did you know? One elephant, on average, 300 pounds of poop a day.
No shit.
Each elephant. It's dropping 300 pounds. You imagine the dude, and they got 6 elephants there. The dude that has to clean up all of that. I was blown away by that. And then it looks like in the South Park. It looks like a mountain. Yeah, like a mountain of just. It's crazy, right there. Isn't
what a
crazy?
Shitty job.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know if they played those commercials because you grew up in San Diego, right? Right around that area as a kid. But in L.A., one of the famous commercials was San Diego's "You Belong to the Zoo."
The San Diego.
Okay, so they played that too.
Of course.
I had no idea the zoo was still around. Aren't they trying to shut those things down like at SeaWorld?
I think it was more SeaWorld. I think the zoo.
Is there still a SeaWorld or is it just no Shamu?
I think they do have a SeaWorld.
But no Shamu.
I think Shamu's still hanging in there, as a matter of fact.
SeaWorld still exists.
I haven't been there in years. The thing about the zoo and why I think it's still thriving, it was packed. is they reintroduce species that are on the brink of extinction sort of back into the wild, and they have like, there was some cheetahs there was only like 19 left and thing, and now they've got a whole thing of cheetahs.
They're all about conserving the animals.
Yeah, they're all about conserving. So that was kind of cool.
By imprisoning them. Yeah, it's very ironic the way they do it.
Well, you have to say, you know what I mean? And then
kidding.
eventually they roll, you know.
Kim, they live
go
better
back.
than you.
You know what? That is true. The rent's probably cheaper, too, here in L.A. Anyway, that's it for this week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule on Trill. I'd like to thank everyone that made this show possible on behalf of Mario Lopez, Smoke and Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Nichols, and Tino on the edits. Goodbye, everybody.